Hello everybody, welcome to another video and welcome to something really awesome. I've been waiting a long time to make this video. You can see behind me there, there is a 2011 21.5 inch iMac's housing, just the empty shell. A while back now I bought in that iMac for repair, but the logic board is completely dead, so I ended up parting it out, sold the good bits, made a bit of money, and that is what I'm left with now, basically. And it got my brain ticking. I was thinking, alright, what can I do with this? Can I make a couple of videos out of it? And how I think it'll look really awesome on my future setup with the G5 Hackintosh. So it got me thinking, and I was like, why don't I use it as a monitor? The iMac's design is awesome, and if I can get USB ports and a webcam out of it, then it's going to be a really, not only look awesome, but it's going to add functionality. So I looked into how I could use the original iMac panel as a monitor, but after a bit of research I found that wasn't really very feasible. So I went out and I bought a 21.5 inch 1080p Dell panel, and I'll show you it in a minute. But that is basically what we're going to use. We're going to retrofit a Dell panel into this iMac and then add functionality through the use of USB ports and a webcam and stuff like that. So before we get into everything, I need to show you all of the parts that are going to make up this little project and what the plan is. So first and foremost, the most important part of this project is the iMac itself, really. Well, arguably you could say the monitor, but yeah, as I said, it's a 2011 21.5 inch iMac. Everyone's seen these before. It's in near mint condition. And it'll do the trick. There's not much I can say, really. Secondly, we have the monitor. This is a 21.5 inch Dell S2240L. It's an IPS panel, full 1080p, is gorgeous, and it's glossy as well. That was a very important point, because you can't have a matte display in an iMac when you've got this external glass in front of it. So I had to find a nice quality glossy display. It's a really nice monitor. The colours are incredible. It's probably the best monitor I've ever used. And to add functionality then, we have firstly this iSight webcam. Now the iMac's iSight webcams run off USB, but because the cables are all grey, I mean Apple, come on, you can't even colour code the cables, so I don't know which one I was wiring up. I couldn't do it myself because I didn't know which wire was which. I didn't have the time to do trial and error everything. So I looked around and I bought this. It's the exact iSight that is used in that iMac off this prototype website in China, and it arrived in a week, and it's literally just the same iSight camera with the USB port on the end. So it'll just be a case of plugging it into the back of the Hackintosh, and it'll work like it did in the iMac. So yeah, that's really cool. I'm really glad I could get that sorted. And then lastly, we have a little 4-port USB splitter. The USB port holes are in the back of the iMac, so we might as well use them. It's not powered, but that's no big deal really. And yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. That is what is going to make up this iMac. Now, in terms of how we are going to mount the display into the iMac, now originally I was planning on epoxying steel plates to the back of the panel, so I could screw it in like the original panel fitted in, but for one, the Dremel I own is absolutely terrible, so it would take me literally hours to cut out every piece. It would have been almost impossible to measure and fit correctly first time, and then it becomes a real mess because you're moving stuff around and epoxy sticks straight away. So the way I've decided to do this is basically just put screws into the original iMac standoffs and then rest the panel against those screws. Now, it's not exactly perfect, but it will look perfect hopefully when it's all on and together. And it'll also allow me to gain access to the cables a lot easier than if I had to unscrew them, and it gives me more margin for error, because as I said, with epoxy and steel plates, if you screw it up first time, it's a bit of a job to get everything off and start again. So yeah, hopefully it'll look absolutely perfect. But that is pretty much the best thing I could come up with. I'm going to stop rambling now. You came here to see this iMac mod. I hope you enjoy it, guys. This is all before I started doing it, so I don't know how it's going to turn out. But yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And without further ado, let's get going. Before we can get to work on the panel itself, we have to get everything else set up. Here I'm screwing in the 7 screws that are going to act as support for the panel. Each of these screws are going to be individually either screwed in or unscrewed so they match the curvature of the iMac, so that the panel can sit as close to the external iMac's glass as possible. It's a bit fidgety, but 100% worth it. Here's the iSight going in then. This is really simple. As I said earlier, it is the exact same module as they use in the actual iMacs, so it was simply just a case of installing these 2 Torx T10 screws, and we were pretty much off to the races. Now onto the USB ports. Now, I had a little bit of an issue here because I don't have 4 hands, and I was having really massive difficulty keeping them in place while I was trying to super glue the others to the iMac's casing. So what I found out was that all 4 USB ports stuck together, as you can see there, equal the exact same width as what the iMac's cutouts for the USB ports on the back are. So that's what I did. I just super glued all 4 of them together, and that made everything a lot easier when installing it in the iMac. Now the cable sits on a 90-degree angle. It's a super tight fit. But as you can see, the little controller board sits at the top and it doesn't interfere with monitor in any way. So yeah, and there we go. That is what the back of our iMac looks like. You can see there are 4 USB ports, and the 3 ports that we aren't using anymore have been blanked off. Now this monitor came apart really easy. The back panel is just held on by a couple of plastic clips, and then the outer surround was just held on by a couple of screws. Now one thing I did when I had my first test fit, I found out that the monitor sits too low in the iMac, so it doesn't match with the iMac's external glass. So what I did was fashion up these 2 little simple little riser blocks. They rise the monitor up by 1 centimetre, and they sit on top of the speaker assembly, as you can see there, and yeah, it does what it says on the tin. It just rises the panel up 1 centimetre, so it matches with where the panel was in the original iMac. So as you can see there, second test fit, it fitted 100% perfectly pretty much first time. Now there was one thing I really wanted to get working, and that was the original power button. And that involved working with the original Dell's menu button circuit board. So here is this little button board then. I'm not sure what to call it. And you can see that there's 4 cables coming out the back of this connector. Now that's the power button. If I press that now, you'll see the display in the background goes off. If I press it again, it should come back on. There we go. So yeah, 2 of these are going to effectively press the power button. So I'm going to go for the first 2 to start off with, see if that works, and yes. So there we go. First time lucky, guys. So the first 2 cables, so green and red, in theory should be the ones that manage the power button. So what I'm going to do now is splice the power button cable from the iMac into this connector and see if it works. 1 crudely spliced together cable later, and we have a fully working power button. I am so glad I could get this working, and it just adds that extra level of sort of authenticity that it would have been missing otherwise. So all that needs doing now is the cable management job and the final fitting. Now as you can see here, I'm trying to get both USB cables for the USB hub and the iSight to be the same length. Yeah, I'm weird like that. The iSight camera had more, the wire was a lot longer, so I just had to Velcro tie both cables at the bottom and tape the remainder of the iSight cable so it didn't interfere with the monitor in any way. And now we're on the final stretch then, the final panel fitting. You can see the power button being plugged in. I'm so pleased I got that working. It just works just as it would in a normal iMac. And you can see there now I'm cleaning it. That's very important because as soon as that external glass goes on for the last time, you don't want any dust particles trapped inside the glass in the panel because that would just irritate the crap out of you. But there we go, guys. iMac to monitor conversion complete. We have turned this completely broken, dysfunctional shell of an iMac into an absolutely kick-ass desktop monitor. Complete with 4 fully functional USB 2.0 ports, a fully functional 720p HD iSight webcam, and of course the star of the show, the 1080p glossy IPS Dell panel. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. This whole project was a lot of fun. There's not a lot of information out there on how to do this, so I was going in pretty much blind, and I'm really, really pleased with the results. So yeah, look forward to the G5 Hackintosh in literally the next fortnight. I'm so excited to get that off the ground. But yeah, as always, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.